I am passionate about fighting poverty, and I still struggle with my judgments of people in poverty. See, fighting poverty is not about money. If it were, we'd have solved poverty by now. Social entrepreneur Marie Forleo estimates that it would take about $28 billion to provide basic sanitation, nutrition, and clean water to the global poor. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but it's not an impossible amount. Does anyone here know how much we spend globally on ice cream each year? More than $51 billion. So I want you to raise your hands right now if you are unwilling to give up ice cream for a year so that every man, woman, and child on the planet could have access to sanitation, nutrition, and clean water. Any takers? Right, I didn't think so. It's not about the money. The problem lies in the definition of poverty. If we don't get the definition of poverty right, then our solutions might not help. And even worse, they could harm. Right? That's what authors Steve Corbett and Brian Fikkert caution in their book When Helping Hurts. So how do we define poverty? Well, in the West, we define poverty as a lack of things, a lack of jobs, a lack of housing, a lack of transportation, a lack of food. So when we provide solution, we focus on things. We focus on food and clothing and shelter and water wells. But if we were to go and interview the global poor, that's not how they define poverty. And that's what the World Bank did in the 1990s. They interviewed 60,000 people in more than 60 countries and asked them to define poverty. And this is what they said. They talked about shame and unworthiness and hopelessness and voicelessness, powerlessness, fear, depression, social isolation. They defined it in psychological and social terms, in terms of loneliness and disconnection. Disconnection from self and from others. And this is just as true for the people in poverty here in America as it is abroad. Years ago, when Mother Teresa came to the States, she was horrified at how lonely people in poverty were. So if we are to fight poverty, we have to, in addition to money, we have to address this issue of loneliness, shame, and disconnection. Disconnection from self and from others. So how do we do this? Well, we can learn a lot from Brené Brown's shame research. Right? She teaches us the difference between guilt, I've done something bad, I've made some poor choices in my life, versus shame, I am bad. None of us are immune to shame. Some of us are more shame resilient, but we can grow our shame resilience by tapping into that truth that we are all worthy of love and belonging. We all deserve to be seen and heard. Brené teaches us to live wholeheartedly from a place of worthiness and to dare greatly. We can also learn a lot from another Texas researcher, Kristin Neff, and her work on self-compassion. It turns out that being kind to yourself can change your brain, and it can change your life. And to be kind to yourself, you first have to start stomping out ants. And these aren't the Texas fire ant kind. This is what Dr. Daniel Amen talks about as automatic negative thoughts, right? These are little gremlins in your head that talk to you when you've had that second fudge brownie. The ones that go, oh, you pig. You're having 2 brownies? You have no self-control. Has anyone ever heard that voice? How about the kind, self-compassionate voice that says, wow, you're really struggling with chocolate and sugar. It's almost addictive for you. You took that second brownie when you weren't even hungry. I wonder what you could do differently next time. Which of these voices reflects your true self? Which of these voices motivates you to live your best life? Right, the kind, self-compassionate voice. We know this voice, right? It's the voice we share with our friends. Right? Some people call this the platinum rule, to be as kind to ourselves as we are to our friends. So I'd like to try a little exercise. If everybody could close their eyes and imagine it's tomorrow morning, you bounce out of bed before caffeine, and you stand in front of the bathroom mirror and you declare, well, hello, beautiful. I am going to have an amazing day today. I'm going to live my best self. I'm going to be seen and heard in my work and play. And no matter what the day brings, I can handle it. I can't wait to see what God will have in store for me today. Feels pretty good, huh? You can open up your eyes now. So why don't we wake up that way every day? Duh, it's not easy. As we sit here today with enough food and a place to call home, we all still struggle with that feeling of not being good enough, right? Not being smart enough, not being strong enough, not being thin enough, not being pretty enough, not being spiritual enough, not being fill in your own blank enough. So imagine how much harder it must be if you are living in the Kibera slum in Kenya to feel good enough, or living in a homeless shelter in Texas. To fight poverty, we have to address these feelings of shame and unworthiness and not feeling good enough. So how do we do that? We must connect with others. We are hardwired for connection, to be in relationship, to be in community. And we seek those connections based on kindness and equality and respect. And when those elements are missing, oppression and violence can occur. And we don't have to look far to see how much oppression and violence creates and perpetuates poverty. Violence in the home is a huge issue, both here in America and around the world. What good is it to have access to clean water and nutrition and education if you don't even feel safe in your own home? This is why the work of World Vision's program, Channel for Hope for Gender, is so important, and why World Vision and other nonprofits recognize that we need to address the issue of everyday violence in the fight against poverty. So what can we do? We can learn to have healthy connections with others and people who live in poverty. It starts with kindness. And here's the good news. Being kind makes you happy. How do I know this? I'm going to get a little geeky on you and talk a little bit about brain chemistry. So scientists can now measure serotonin, the level of serotonin, think happy hormone, that is present when we're being kind. We now know that if I am kind to you, my serotonin, happy hormone, increases, your happy hormone increases. But here's the best news. A bystander who just sees that kindness, their happy hormone increases. How cool is that, right? We could use this as proof of the golden rule, the do unto others as you would have do unto you, the do good rule. But we have a problem in our community today, in our culture. Ken Weitzman and others have commented that we're no longer following the golden rule. We're settling for the silver rule, the do no harm rule. We hear it all the time in our communities, in our schools. We hear, don't harm Johnny, don't bully Johnny, don't label Johnny. But we hear less often, be kind to Johnny, connect with Johnny, walk alongside Johnny, invite Johnny into your group. We must reject the silver rule. Doing no harm is not enough. If we want to be effective in fighting poverty and tackle issues of shame and unworthiness and disconnection, we must be active in our love and kindness. And to do that, we must exercise our empathy muscle. Empathy is the antidote to shame and fear. Empathy is active. Empathy is, I see your pain. I get it. I want to connect with you. I want to walk alongside you. You are not alone. So today I want to talk to you about two examples of the golden rule and empathy in action, how powerful they are in the fight against poverty. The first one is Open Table. It's an exciting model that doesn't focus on money and things, but more on connections and relationships. And in this model, a group of 8 to 10 people walk alongside a brother or sister in poverty for a year. It's not about financial support. The group exercises empathy and uses their social capital and their networks and their life experiences. Open Table began in Arizona when founder John Katoff was volunteering at a homeless shelter handing out granola bars when one of the homeless men, Ernie, broke the rules. He came around the table and he asked if he could go to church with John. See, Ernie wanted connection more than he wanted another granola bar. And so began Open Table. That year, Ernie got a job and a mobile home, and now more than 9 years later, Ernie and John are still friends and text one another regularly. The Open Table is this beautiful model of transformational change, one person changing the lives of 8 to 10 others over the course of a year. Here in Austin, Grace Covenant Church is using Open Tables for youth who are aging out of foster care. And Crowns of Hope is launching Open Tables to support survivors of human trafficking. This work is not easy, right? It's much, much harder than handing out granola bars. But it's hugely effective in getting people permanently out of poverty. The other example that I want to talk about is this. It's a bag of grace. We have them in our cars. We hand them out to homeless at traffic lights. And my son loves to hand these out to everyone. I often have to say, no, honey, he's just waiting for a bus. He doesn't need a bag of grace. But whether you provide a bag of grace or a bottle of water or loose change, the most important thing you can do is connect. Homeless people feel invisible. So connect. Introduce yourself. Ask them their name. It's a small but powerful step in piercing that invisibility. People in poverty deserve to be seen and heard. People in poverty are worthy of love and belonging. We all are. We can all practice the golden rule. We can all practice empathy. And together, we can all fight poverty one connection at a time. Thank you.